It's September 29th, 2022. This is a special edition of Rook. Hi there, welcome to episode 202 of Rook. I'm Jian. This is another special edition of our program, this one entitled The Uprising, Voices from Inside Iran. It's good to be with you. I really hope you're doing your best wherever you're tuning in from around the world. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam Dustan Aziz. Durud bar shama. It's now day 13 since we heard the news of the horrific killing of Mahsa Amini in Iran. And since then, there have been countrywide protests, a brutal crackdown, an internet blockage, and international attention and solidarity for those brave souls fighting for basic human rights in the streets in Iran. We spent the last two special episodes hearing from voices across the diaspora on what we can possibly do to support the women and men in Iran who are leading this movement and putting their lives on the line, chanting in the streets of cities all over Iran. But on this episode, we want to do something a little different. We want to bring you voices from inside Iran, from the front lines. We have three courageous folks who have been demonstrating against the regime in the last 2 weeks in Iran, and they're going to speak to us over the next hour. They will give us a first-hand account of what exactly they are witnessing and experiencing in this volatile moment. The Uprising, Voices from Inside Iran. All right, first things first, let me bring in the Rook on-air team. Hi, Smart Pega.
Hello.
And hello, Groovy Shaya.
Hi, Azizam.
So, you okay?
Yes.
Voices. Gerefte, Kami. Say that gerefte.
Dilam gerefte.
I know. Well, I mean, we just did a show on Monday, but things are happening pretty fast, and a lot is going on, and so we were inspired to do another one. How you feeling?
I mean, I can echo Denam Gerefte for sure, like many people, but I'm very excited to hear from the individuals that we're going to have today.
Yeah, we actually reached out to a lot of people. Understandably, I mean, there were some scheduling issues, but because Iran is many hours ahead, and we're doing this here in the afternoon here on Thursday, but in Toronto time. But in a lot of cases, folks were had some trepidation about coming on because they are understandably worried about safety and worried about being tracked down by a regime that is pretty intent on going after anybody and everybody that's demonstrating right now. So, we certainly didn't want to force anyone's hand. We have three folks who were ready to do this, and we're going to use pseudonyms, not their actual names. And we've actually tried getting in touch with them, and both the cell phone and the internet is pretty spotty from Canada to Iran right now.
That's right.
It's not 3 a.m. there or something, so we're still kind of in, I guess, would you call this peak hours or something?
Yes.
So anyway, we'll see. I mean, we're going to try and get these voices on, and we'll see how long the connection lasts, or if it lasts. We have a woman in who we'll call Sara in Tehran, another woman who we'll call Elham in Mashhad, and a guy named Sam also in Tehran. And I should know that, I mean, these are three voices from the front lines. They have been demonstrating. They can give us firsthand accounts of what's going on there, but they are only three voices. So we don't have this isn't scientific. We're not, we don't have a completely accurate sense of everything that's happening. What we'll hear is their personal experience. And I really feel like it'll be instructive. As good as it's felt hearing from different folks, people in the diaspora, of how can we do, what can we do to support. It's going to be interesting to hear from people having, had our team members contact them. I know they have some interesting things to say, and to hear what's going on in Iran right now.
Yeah.
We're all talking about it and around it and supporting it. But so just before we get to that, I wanted to mention something that I was saying on Instagram last night that I know we all agree with, which is that this weekend is if you are in the diaspora, if you're not listening to us from Iran and you want to do something, the simplest thing you could do, at least, is turn up at one or more than one of these demonstrations that are really happening all weekend around the world. Here in Toronto, I think there's like 4 we've counted.
Yeah.
Every day there's 1 or 2, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all over the U.S., all over Europe, different parts of Asia. I know these demonstrations are happening, so we'll be at a bunch of them around here, and wherever you are listening around the world, if you really want to be counted. I mean, I just feel like I suspect this weekend's going to be big, and this will hopefully wake the international community up, that the international Iranian community is at least united around wanting people to pay attention to what's going on in Iran, and the massive numbers, I think, will help do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's 120 cities that are participating in this, is what I was looking and reading online. So, like you said, here's hoping that media outlets and other support from people outside of the Iranian community will join as well.
And you don't need to, I mean, for those who, if you're out there and you've never been to a demo before, or you're not into that kind of thing or whatever, I mean, having gone to a couple of them last week in Toronto, it's a family event. I mean, you don't have to go stand at the very front and chant slogans if you don't want to, but turning up and being counted is a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
I think just anyone's presence is more than enough. Just showing up and being there in these large numbers and showing support, I think that's the most important thing.
Now, before we get to the our guests from Iran, and we'll get to them pretty quickly, that's our priority here. Just want to mention a couple of notes that we've learned the last couple of days. First of all, there's an increasing number of, this is again something I talked about on our Instagram last night, about the fact that we now in the Rook team have direct connections to people. I mean, connections, I should say. We know people, or our families know people who are, one person who's been killed, people who are being arrested, a couple of people have been killed actually, and or being detained, and so we were already heartsick about everything we're hearing about what's happening in Iran, but now it gets ever more real when it's people that you know personally. Shai, you were saying that somebody yesterday.
Yeah, actually, one of my friend, she called me last night Toronto time, like it was like I think 5 a.m. in Iran, and she lives in the north of Iran, actually, not in Tehran. And like she was shivering, and she was telling that some thugs invaded their home, and they beaten up.
Thugs who would be part of the regime.
They beaten up her mother and her sisters, and like her sister bones were cracked.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and so they detained my friend. Is she an
activist? Or?
She's like activist on Twitter, and she's Farzand Shahid, like she's a kid of a murder. And and they detained her in a solidarity confinement.
Oh my God!
For a couple of nights, I mean. Her voice keeps repeating in my mind, and it's really I have no word to explain that how awful they feel in this.
And I should explain. I mean, Dr. Moridi, I think, was the one who was explaining this on a show on Monday. But for those who aren't familiar with this, or the non-Iranians listening, once again, there's the police, there's the military, there's even the IRGC, but then there's outsourced thugs, basically, right? There's just people who are hired to go, I don't know, beat people up and intimidate folks and things like that, right?
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And also, I mean, there's a lot there's a lot we could speak about anecdotally, but again, and it changes by the hour. But there's something that really bothered me when I heard today, amongst all the things that are sad news. You if you're listening to us, you probably are interested enough. You may be interested enough that you've been following things on social media, and there's a young guy named Shervin.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's his full name? Shervin
Hajipour.
Hajipour, right? Who wrote a song. I mean, a lot of artists are doing songs that are. Dang Show did a cool little tribute piece, and I did something with a bunch of people with Arash Sobhani. There's a lot of people who are doing songs, and but this young guy wrote a piece. If you haven't watched it, and I'm sure many of you have. Where he's just it's very simple. He's singing along to I guess a piano or something, and the lyrics are made up of tweets, right?
Yes.
That Iranian people had put up, and it's kind of a list of the issues that people are dealing with in Iran.
It's called Baraye.
Baraye. This is why.
Yeah.
These are the reasons why we need to change. Kind of. Can you play a little bit of it? Like we can play the whole thing at the end, but just people get a sense of it.
کوچه رقصیدن برای ترسیدن به وقت بوسیدن برای خواهرم خواهرت خواهرامون برای تغییر مغزها که پوسیدن.
So because of fear, because of not being able to dance, because of our sisters, because of the death of Mahsa, etc., he's saying, right? And so this song, as many people who in our audience will know, went viral in the last 2 or 3 days, and had about 40 million. The little video of him doing this, which is a very simple video of just him sitting there singing this, had about 40 million or more views.
I think so, yeah.
And then we hear the news today. First of all, if you go to his social media accounts, because it was on his Instagram and on his YouTube, and it's been removed.
It's gone, yeah.
So that was the first kind of weird thing. Yes. And we thought that maybe Instagram had taken it down or something. We weren't sure what had happened. But now the news that he's been arrested.
Yeah.
Because he was in Iran. I mean, this is the thing, right? This is why it's not hypothetical, like here's an example. A guy wrote a song, right? Yeah. He wrote a song, and he's been...
Yeah.
I mean, you see these comments and on a variety of photos and posts and things like that, where sometimes people from Iran will comment, and I've seen it a lot. They say, if you can't hear us afterwards, or if you can't hear from us afterwards, or if you don't see our comments afterwards, it's because, and then there's a whole list of things. Either they've been detained, the internet has been shut down, they've been arrested, they've been beaten, they're put into solitary confinement. I mean, the list goes on, right? And yet this is something that, because his song was shared so many times and because there were so many plays, his arrest was so, it really shook people. I mean, it shook me for sure.
And ironically, it's because his song was too good.
That's right.
Because so many people are putting out music or doing artistic works or whatever that I mean, I'm assuming the regime can't keep up with all of this,
Of course.
But this one, because he's gotten the 40 million views, that said, I see already a bunch of people. I'll post it now again too. It's sort of going, okay, you want to arrest this guy?
Yeah.
We'll spread his song even further. So hopefully it'll be a billion views by next week. Right?
I mean, exactly. And also, I mean, the new wave of arresting actually just began. Like, I've heard that they arrested very famous lyricist Mona Borzui, or like a good football player Hossein Mahi. I mean, it started when we have to wait. Like tomorrow, probably they arrest more people.
Right.
It's a repeating game.
It's what we've always been saying, or at least been saying the last couple of weeks, that the worst is yet to come, and we're just starting to see like new wave of arrests, and who knows, this is ever changing. So.
All right. Well, let's go to again for this episode. We want to hear from people that have generously and courageously agreed to speak to us from inside Iran. And I think with a couple of these, we're using connections that I mean, just to let the audience in on this. there's even the idea of using a cell phone can be dangerous for folks in Iran because the authorities there can track you down through a cell phone, and so there's been some concerns about all of that. So we found different ways that we're going to connect with these people, and so Pegah, we'll see you on the other side of this, and Shai, I know you're dialing up our first. First up, I want to go to a woman in Tehran. She is in her 30s. She works in a private import and export company, and she has been demonstrating. She has witnessed and experienced what's been going on there. And for the sake of this interview, we're going to call her Sara. Hello, Sara. Are you there?
Hi. Nice to hear your voice, and I'm here to talk to you.
Thank you for doing this, and thank you for all that you're doing on the ground there. First of all, tell us, you're in Tehran, correct?
Yes, I live in Tehran, and I'm in Tehran right now.
Can you describe first of all, what is the atmosphere like in Tehran right now?
It's been 2 weeks after the Mahsa Amini's death, and there are scattered protests around the city of Tehran and other cities in Iran. But because of the police and guard violence, the protests have decreased a little bit. But strikes have started in universities and some businesses, and still we are very, very angry.
Tell me about your first of all. I mean, if somebody is in Tehran right now, is it clear something's going on there, or do you have to go to certain parts of the city to see protests, etc.? I mean, is it clear anywhere you go in Tehran that there's a police presence and that there's...
Yes. There are so many police guards in all the streets of Tehran, and this is some kind of military attack on Tehran. You see the military police, the guard, and some sort of police all over the city, and it's kind of terrifying.
Sara, I know that you've been active out there in the protests. Tell me when you decided, after the news about Mahsa Amini, when you decided to go out on the streets.
I'm going to tell you something first. Let me describe my life and other Iranian life to you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes, our whole life is tied to politics. We have so many economic problems in our country. We have financial problems. We have environmental problems. And our government is somehow bankrupt. So we have some kind of mental pressure in our lives every day. And there is some morality police also. You imagine that you go to work every morning and you have to pass through the morality police every day.
Yes.
And every day there is a chance you got arrested by the morality police. There are women who wearing veils, black veils, and also some police guys in main streets, in main squares, on the metro station. And when you want to go to work in the morning, in 8 o'clock in the morning, you have to pass through the morality police.
Right.
And this is a very, very hard situation. It's been for years. And the death of Mahsa was the explosion point for us. We couldn't handle this mental pressure anymore. We couldn't stand with it because each one of us could be Mahsa. Each one of us could be Mahsa. If you resist the morality police in the streets, they're going to beat you and force you to ride the car and go to the police station. And when they're going to beat you, there's a chance that you got, for example,
all right. We're losing Sara a little bit here, but we'll continue to hold on and see if it clears up. If not, we'll try and.
This is so dangerous every day. So, this was the explosion point for us. And after I heard the Mahsa's death, I told myself that maybe I die on the street, maybe I got arrested, but I can't live this anymore. I can't live this anymore. This is not something that I can stand or handle with this anymore. And I went to protest on the street, on Engelab Street after one day that Mahsa was killed, I went to protest on the street. And there was so many police guards, they beat us, they threw tear gas to us. They even shot some protesters, and that was so terrifying, but we couldn't do anything. We have to deal with it. We can't live with this situation anymore.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions based on what you've just said. And again, I'm thankful that you're sharing all of this with us. But by the way, let me ask you: Are you do you have any fear or trepidation about even doing an interview like this?
I have the fear, but I have to do that. There is a point in your life that you have to risk your life because the rights that you have to reach. Right. Because of my rights, I have to do that. And I'm going to do that. I am frightened, but I have to do that.
Would you say that, would you describe yourself before this? Because you said this was a breaking point for you. Sometimes these kind of protests and stuff get written off, and especially by authorities, of, oh, this is some troublemakers. These are some activists. Would you have previously described yourself as an activist? In other words, do you always go out on these demonstrations, or is this time different for you?
Yes. No. There have been so many years that we are protesting against our government. 10 years ago, 2 years ago, after the Ukrainian airplane, we went to the streets to protest. But this government is not something we can live with anymore. This is something cannot be reformed. They have to go. We want a referendum, and this is not just this situation this year. It's been years that we are protesting, but this time you heard our voices.
But would you say that this time, we're told that this time is much bigger, and it's a more are you seeing people at these protests that you previously wouldn't have seen? In other words, does it feel that much bigger?
This is the biggest protest in Iran around the whole country in many cities. Our public rage is now so bigger than our fear this time. This is why this protesting movement is so bigger than other times. This is the explosion point in Iran.
Sarah, we've been seeing a lot of videos of women, brave women, taking supported by men, taking off their hijabs in the streets. Have you been wearing a Rusari hijab when you go out on these things, or
you know, when you are a Muslim woman, you have to obey the Islamic rules. You have to put hijab and wear a hijab. But when you are not religious, you don't have to do that in a free country. And we are not religious. I'm not religious. There are millions of women in Iran who they are not religious and they are forced to wear a hijab. Uh, we wore rosary just because of the law,
yes,
just because of the police force. So after the Mahsa Amini's death, I didn't put rosary on my head. It's been 2 weeks. I told myself that there is a risk that I got arrested, but I can't do that anymore. And every time I go out, I look at my room and I tell myself, maybe this is the last time I see my room. Maybe this is the last time I see my mom. But I don't have no choice. I can't live with the forced hijab anymore.
Wow. What does your mom say when you go out and she knows you're bravely going out like that?
My mom is worried. Yes, my mom is worried about me, but she knows that this forced hijab, this is something we don't want.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, we've known this, the internet going in and out, this is going to happen during these interviews. We're actually not going to edit this so that you folks can hear this. But we're going to stick around here and see if, for each of these interviews, we've been sort of waiting until we could get a connection. Let's see if Sara comes back here.
How brave she is. Wow.
Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Sara, tell me about. You said that people are getting beaten. Have you been? What's happened to you out on these demonstrations? Have you been able to escape these riot police and stuff?
I went to the protests for about 4 times. And the first time I went to protest in Englav Street, they beat on my head with baton, and there was tear gas in the air, and that was so difficult, but I had to deal with it. I went another time. I told myself that there is a chance I got shot by the police, but I have to fight for my rights. And there are thousands of people, Iranian people, who knows that they might be killed, they might be arrested, but they prefer to fight.
What is the atmosphere like amongst you and the other protesters when you're at this demonstration? I mean, do you feel the strength? Is there fear? Is there energy? Tell me, if you can, describe it for me.
This is anger. This is public outrage. This is anger. Everyone are angry, and all of us know that this regime must go. We want a referendum to leave. We want to leave. We want just to have a normal life. We want to choose what to wear. We want to choose our lifestyle. So we have to fight. And when we look at each other, we smile. We just smile. We are frightened, but we smile because we know that we have to fight. And we know that if this regime still that's some kind of difficult for me. We know that if the Islamic Republic. In Iran, we can't have a life, so we have to fight it, and all of the protesters know that. And there are some people that can't protest in the streets. We chant at night on our window and on the roof. We chant every night at 9 o'clock. And we chant and say, down with dictator, down with Khamenei, down with the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we want freedom. We chant freedom every night on our windows. This is the atmosphere in Tehran.
We've heard and we've seen that a lot of the demonstrators are quite young. I mean, it's very inspiring to see sort of 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds who've grown up in this Islamic Republic. Well, so have you. But I mean, to be out on the streets, describe the kinds of people that you've seen demonstrating alongside you.
They're so young and they're so brave, and this bravery is it's because they want a normal life. When you talk to them, the only thing they want is normal life. They want to dance, they want to choose their clothes. They want to be normal people, just like other normal countries. They want to live, but they have to immigrate to another country, and they want this freedom in their country, in Iran. So they are so angry and very brave, and they chant their rights. And I couldn't believe this much bravery from the young people. The young girl and boys, about 18, 17, 16. You know, I didn't saw this kind of protest in these ages, teenagers.
Yeah.
This is the first in Iran that I see this much young people all over the cities and country. And they are so brave. They are so brave, and the only thing they want is a normal life. Just that.
Sara, I'm guessing that you know some people who've been arrested or even injured or killed?
Yes. One of our neighbors was shot in Tajrish Street, and we don't know where she is. And one of my brother's friends was killed in Ekbatan, and the family cannot protest to the government because of the force of our government or something. But I know, and I have 3 friends that have been arrested by the Islamic forces.
You know, we had a guest on, a singer named Gelare Sheibani, who was talking about, she was talking to a friend in Iran who's been at the demonstrations, and he had told her that he, for the first time when you know, I guess he's been at protests before, but he saw fear in and amongst these riot police. He could see that, you know, that they don't believe that the regime or even their force is as strong as it has been in the past, and that the people who are rising up are much stronger. Do you have any sense of that?
Yes, because these young people are so brave, much more brave than our generation. and because they are so angry, so the police have you can feel the fear in the police faces, in the guardmen faces. You can feel the fear in their eyes. That's so true.
Are you aware of, like, are you and the other demonstrators and people, I mean, I'm guessing you are because you're talking to us, are you aware of how much, around the world there has been support and demonstrations in support of you guys in the streets in Iran?
Yes. In Iran, we watch your TV series, your movies, your music, and we know so many celebrities. This support of celebrities, of actors, actresses, this is so good for us. We feel happy. We really feel happy that the world hear our voices, and this is so good. This is so good. We on Instagram, on Twitter, we see many celebrities that are supporting us, and this is so good. That feels so good.
Not just celebrities, but there's thousands and thousands of people in the streets here in Toronto or LA or London, everywhere, right?
Yes, that is so good. That feels so good. This is something that give us that make us more brave, even more brave.
Well, you're the leaders. We're trying to support. I mean, what you're doing is brave. Tell me about, a few minutes ago you had said that the protests have gotten smaller because of the crackdowns, and I'm guessing also because of the internet shutdown. Can you describe what do you, is there less activity, less people going out on the streets? What's happening now?
That's true. That's because you said that. That's because the internet shut down, and because the police and guard violence. But I told you, a strike have started, and my friends they made paper notices. And they're going to spread these papers over the neighbors. They're going to put this paper notice on the door of the houses, and on these papers they wrote, "Let's be united. Let's strike. Let's protest against the."
I'm actually. Oh, okay. You're back now. Go ahead. Yes, you were talking about they're taking paper around. I can hear you now. You were talking about they're in because the internet is not working. People are walking around with paper notices. I mean, it's almost like a pre-internet age. The way flyers.
Yes, that's just all ages, and we have to do that. We have to do that when they shut down the internet. We have to do the old ways, the old school ways, and on the streets, you can see so many girls without a scarf, so many girls without a scarf, girls and women. And this is something that I haven't seen for years.
Do you think that the combination of, I mean, just the fact that people are getting killed and obviously arrested, and this crackdown across the country, and the military and the police in the streets, do you feel like the protests are going to die off because of they're intimidating the people out of being able to do this, or do you suspect that you guys will keep protesting?
I think that we're going to protest because we can't live this. We can't live like this anymore. We have so many problems. So if we want to live, we want to have normal life, so we have to fight. So I think the protests are going to be continued in the future. I don't think that they can shut the protest movement in Iran.
It doesn't sound like you're, despite the fact that you know a neighbor who's disappeared, you know people who've been shot, you have friends who've been arrested. You're not intimidated. You want to keep going out there.
Yes, we have no choice. We have no choice. You know, in Iran, we love life. We love normal life. We love to dance. We love to have fun. We want to have a normal life, and these dreams made us strong. We have no choice. We have no choice but to continue. Maybe we got arrested. Maybe we got... Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. You can hear me. All right. Thank you. خیلی متشکرم. It's so important for us to hear from voices inside Iran, and you are so brave for what you're doing.
Thank you for your support, and that was so nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Please take care of yourself, okay?
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Forgetting the smell of the warm summer air. I live in a town where you can't smell a thing. You watch your feet for cracks in the pavement.
All right. Let's now go to Mashhad. And this is an English teacher in Mashhad who has been out on the demonstrations, and for the sake of this interview, we're going to call you Elham. Elham, are you there?
Yeah, here I am. Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very much appreciated. First of all, how are you feeling, and how do you describe the atmosphere in Mashhad this week?
Well, this week I can say that it's pretty much intense, and we are all very, shocked, sad, upset. I can name many adjectives for you right now because we are feeling differently. I mean, some people are kind of in a silent mode, I can say. And some people are mad, they are angry, like me. And yeah, but none of us are, feeling good. None of us.
Is it clear? I mean, just if you can paint a picture of what it's like to be living and witnessing what's happening in Mashhad right now. I was just talking to somebody who was in Tehran, and she was telling us that it's very clear. There's police, there's military all over the city. Is that the case in Mashhad as well? Could if you were just sort of parachuted into the city right now, would it be clear something's going on?
No, not that much right now. I mean, for the last 2 days, I can say that we can't see any police or military, not much,
And why do you think that is?
I don't know, maybe people are tired, or I can say they're scared. Not everyone wants to go to the streets right now. I can talk about Mashhad, I don't know about other cities, but I think more people are getting more and more scared of these jerks. And even I could see police until 2 days ago, but right now, no, I don't see any.
Elham, tell us about your experience at the demonstrations in Iran. I mean, and in Mashhad, Are you someone who would have gone on demonstrations before this, and why was this a moment when you also wanted to hit the streets?
I'm a feminist person, so yeah, I would definitely do that, and I did. Well, if I want to put it shortly, it was one of these nights because, there were some nights in a row, and I was busy at work when people were on the streets, because they mostly happen in the evenings where I had classes. So I couldn't really join, but there was this one night that one of my classes got canceled, so I decided to head straight to one of these streets. I took the subway, but it didn't stop for 3 stations in a row, and I realized so there must have been something going on there. So I got off the train at the first next station, and when I came up to the surface, to the ground floor, I saw a very small group of people, mostly teenagers, I can say. Just, they were waiting for something and looking around. I kind of waited to see what happens next, and it gradually became larger. I joined and then they started shouting slogans, and the reason I keep mentioning the group as they and not we is because I hadn't believed it yet, that it was happening, that I was there in the street, and I couldn't really believe it at first. Opposite the street, there was this police officers, but they really didn't do anything at first. They just came and asked us to leave, and seriously, nothing happened. But I couldn't leave with the group because I was waiting there for a friend whose cell phone was off, and I had to wait for him for 20 minutes or so. And because he didn't answer, I left, and I decided to go to another street, another spot. I entered to this another street, which we call Sajjad, and almost no one was there. But I, as I was walking, I felt my nose and throat were burning. So I kind of got the feeling that, there must have been something happening there. And, I was walking when unexpectedly I saw a huge number of people running towards me, screaming, "Run, run, run!" And they were being chased by those motorcycle riders, which, they were not police officers. I think there were these volunteer people that we call basiji here in Iran.
Right.
I was too shocked to even move, so I just stood up against the wall, trying to keep my distance as far as I could with the riders. They were hitting people there, and I was kind of hiding in a shadow and decided to go to the opposite direction where the riders came from. And I thought, okay, they were all gone when I turned back and faced exactly one of them right in front of me. I just covered my face, and one of them hit me, and I escaped. I remember this movie called Leon the Professional, if you've seen it. Yeah. Probably you have.
Yeah.
Which, if you remember, Matilda, the little girl, rings the neighbor's door, hoping he would open the door as if she leaves. That's exactly what I did. Ringing almost all. When I entered, I realized that my fingers were bleeding because my ring had been broken and kind of locked into one of my fingers. And I didn't even feel the pain at first because I was too shocked and nervous. And I was very horrified because I could hear those people, those riders yelling, shouting to come out. And the worst thing is that none of my family members knew where I was. They had no idea that I had intended to go to the streets, and only one of my teachers, who's kind of like a friend to me, knew about that, and he was also very nervous, texting me a lot, and he offered to come to that, place, that house, stranger's house, and pick me up. Eventually, I could actually find an online taxi service, but when the driver arrived, he wanted to cancel it because he said it was so dangerous, and he was very worried that something like that happened to his car. And I again begged him to stay and take me home. And that's when I actually arrived at home with my fingers bruised and kind of in pain, yeah.
What was the, and I guess somewhat fortunate that you weren't, that something worse hadn't happened to you, right?
Yeah.
What was the conversation like with the people whose house you went into?
They were so kind, they were so sweet, and I could trust them. I can say just, I don't know, they were like angels from God, I can say. They came and helped me with my finger, they sanitized it, and that's all they could do. I mean, if they hadn't opened the door, I don't know what would have happened to me.
They obviously knew, they knew you had been at the demonstration, yes?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So they were sympathetic. What is, I mean, have you been back after that night, or did that sort of traumatize you enough that you didn't want to go back?
No, actually, I was way more stubborn, and I think, I don't remember vividly, but I guess another night, maybe it was one night or 2 nights after that, I went riding my bicycles in the streets with no covers. I mean, no scarves.
No hijab, nothing. Oh.
Yeah, and I was riding right in front of the motorcycle riders, and they were looking at me. Actually, they were staring at me like I was kind of a mad girl who's lost her mind. And one of them came and said, well, actually, in a very angry way, he forced me to wear my scarf, and I didn't. So he sent someone to follow me, and then I escaped, and yeah, I came back home.
Wow. So, I mean, we hear about this kind of bravery, but, you're obviously aware that there's, there's crackdowns, and there's people being beaten, arrested, shot, killed, and that's in, places in like Tehran, let alone Mashhad. Tell me about the courage that you have. Tell me about what goes through your mind when you say, fuck it, I'm going to get on a bicycle without a rusari, without a hijab, and I'm going to ride in front of these guys.
Well, it's all about my principles. It's all about women's rights. And I've raised in a way that I fight for my freedom all the time. Not just about, cover and hijab, about anything. I fight all the time. I'm a fighter, I can say. And this is one of my principles. And I'm very, very serious about it because I'm a feminist, and this is a feminist issue. So that's the motivation I get.
How does your, what kind of conversations have you been having with your family in the last week or two?
Well, I haven't told them anything about these things because they are so opposed this. I mean, they're not, the regime followers, they hate their regime, but they're too worried for their children. They wouldn't let me go out and do these things. Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like you're scared to do so.
No, I'm going to do it again. Actually, I'm doing it again. I mean, I take the subway every day from and to work, and I try not to wear any scarf. And what's funny? That I have struggled with women mostly. I mean, religious women. Men don't say anything. This is the really cool part, that men say nothing, and women, religious women who wear chador, they come and they have raw video, and it's just really, really ridiculous that I have to fight with women.
Meaning you're standing there, say, in the subway. I mean, I've seen these kind of videos and stuff, but you're standing there, and then one of these more religious women will come and say, "Why aren't you obeying the rules and wearing the scarf, etc.?"
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying.
You've obviously thought through what might happen in terms of getting arrested or detained or all of that. Are you worried about that?
No, because okay, this might sound a little dramatic, but I say, okay, I'm tired of these things going on in Iran, and either I'm dead or I'm free. So it's either one of these.
Wow. Yeah. Do you have any sense of how much? I mean, when you're protesting, when you're in your daily life in a city like Mashhad, do you have a sense of how much popular support there is? I mean, putting aside how many people actually go to the streets and demonstrate, but do you feel like the big majority is on your side?
Unfortunately, I can say no, because I can remember there was this day in August. I think it was the 12th of August that we women decided not to wear any hijab, and we called it no hijab, no scarf day, something like that. And it was only me and another woman with no scarf on the street that day. And everyone was, wearing scarf like all other days. And, I just couldn't feel the support. And yeah, I felt really, really lonely.
But that hasn't changed now. I mean, given the big outcry after Mahsa Amini, would you still say that that's the case?
No, it's better. I mean, people are more supportive. I can see more girls not wearing hijab in the streets or in the subway, I can say. But still, I can't really have hope for Mashhad, I can say. I don't know about other cities, but for Mashhad, I'm still not really that much hopeful.
You must be aware that I mean, I know we contacted you, so you're obviously you're checking the internet. You've got capability of seeing what's happening around the world. Are you aware of just the level of support and solidarity that's happening internationally with the Iranian diaspora in terms of people demonstrating in different cities, trying to support you guys?
Yes, and that is actually amazing, and that kind of even makes me more angry about some people in Iran that are still on silent mode. They don't say anything, like in their posts or stories. They say nothing. They don't protest. And I tell them, okay, these people from other countries are protesting for us. They are supporting why you are silent. Please don't be silent and say something. This is what I'm doing like every day in my Instagram page.
I feel like this is really... Oh, you do this on an Instagram page under your own name?
Yeah.
Okay, so you are out publicly in terms of your we're using a pseudonym in this interview, but you are on Instagram. You're
publicly
taking a position.
No. It's not a public page, actually.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's a private page, but I have many colleagues there. I have some students of mine there, and I can actually encourage them. As a teacher, I can...
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you are. You're back. I just want to say that that's really important and I should say heartening to hear, because we say, I mean, I've said on our program and, let's get out in the streets, let's support these people in Iran. But it sometimes feels hypothetical. Like I don't how am I supposed to actually know if we're making a difference? So to know that it makes a difference to you or your fellow protesters or folks in Iran who really want to create change, that's a pretty big deal, and that's an indication that I guess folks around the world should keep doing this.
As I said before, the demonstrators are doing their job. There's nothing I can tell them because they're doing their job perfectly. But to the people who are silent and are not saying anything, those are dangerous people. And I try to actually show and share some videos from other countries, people being our voice, supporting us, to them, and tell them, come on, people around the world are talking about us while you are silent. So I'm kind of encouraging this silent side of the people. Yeah.
Can you talk about something you've been inspired by during these protests? The woman I was just speaking to, who's in Tehran, was talking about the youth of some of the protesters that she's been alongside, and how inspiring it is to see their determination. Can you share an anecdote or an idea of what you've seen that has really been inspiring to you?
Being hit by a person for just not wanting to wear hijab, for just wanting to protest for our rights, for our basic rights, was big enough to motivate me. I mean, that was big enough to be enough. I didn't need more.
There was somebody, we had one of our guests earlier this week say that she was talking to someone in Iran who'd been at demonstrations, who was saying that, and had been at previous ones in previous years, and was saying this time's different in terms of that the riot police at times seeming like they're scared, like they have fear in their eyes. She had said like they know this time is different somehow, or the crowds are bigger. I'm not sure if that's happening in Mashhad, but do you have any sense of that?
Actually, yeah, it happened in Koratus Boulevard in Mashhad when the number of protesters were more than police officers. So they kind of back off, and people had weapons. So the police were scared, and I think that was the only time that in Mashhad police was scared, because of the number of people, and because people were with weapons. And police stations are lacking number of soldiers, and that's another reason why they're scared.
I know you don't have before I let you go, and again, I thank you so much for doing this. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you, I mean, if you were to guess, do you think that where do you think this is going to go? We know that the regime's tactic is to, shut off communication with the internet and to, brutally sort of launch a crackdown, which both things have happened this week. Are you disheartened by that? Do you see less enthusiasm, more fear amongst the people you know? And what do you expect to see in the coming days and weeks?
If I want to put it shortly, I can say in one sentence that they're not going to last. And they're not going to last in a few years. A few years. I'm not talking about decades. A few years.
What about this? What about for the next few weeks?
No, not that soon. I mean, I wish, but no, not that soon.
You're not optimistic that this is some kind of inqilab, that this is another revolution right now?
Because we don't have a leader. I mean, when we had that, there was this Islamic revolution. There was this leader who would tell people what to do, but now there's no leader. Groups are different. Everybody is, saying something, and people are kind of confused to listen to whom, That's why I'm saying. But there are some public figures who who are being followed more by people. And I think one of these will eventually become like a leader for people, but it takes time. I mean, that's why I say, come on, it's not gonna take like a few weeks. It's gonna take more than that, like a few years.
Yeah. Although it's hard to believe things will go back to normal, quote unquote, after this, after so many public people in Iran as well just coming out and speaking out against this regime, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Elham, please take care of yourself. Thank you again for the time, and know that there's support for you right around the world.
Thank you very much for your support, and I hope really, really good things happen soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
This dream I'm dreaming, won't you wake me up tonight? 'Cause this life I'm living doesn't really feel like mine. This strange dream I'm dreaming, if it ain't wrong, it don't feel right. Never thought you were leaving. I never thought I'd have to start again. Somebody wake me up. Don't you wish we were dreaming?
You're listening to a Rook special, The Uprising, Voices from Inside Iran. I want to go back to Tehran now. And Sam, who is a musician and filmmaker, he is in Tehran. Sam, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for doing this. You didn't have any trepidation about speaking to us?
I mean, there are some reservations, but I think it's okay, especially because it's English language. I don't think they're very sensitive about this, and my page is public already, so yeah.
Right. Can you describe first and foremost, what is your sense of the atmosphere in Tehran today, right now?
I mean, it depends on the neighborhood. Right now, I think it's very different from one neighborhood to the other. Like last week, it was still different, but the amount of unrest was almost the same. But right now, like some neighborhoods are mostly just a lot of cars honking, and that's it. Some places they're like people chanting. Most places they don't allow people to gather enough. I mean, they don't allow enough number of people to gather so that they can like chant. So it's kind of like a street war kind of situation, like in Sattar Khan or in Narmak. There are cars who are honking and supporting, which is very helpful because first of all, when there's traffic, it's not easy for them to like raid with their bikes, and that helps a lot. And also because like so many cars are like honking and supporting them, like it's more difficult for them to be too brutal, I would say. But still, like the way they're fighting right now is mostly like, even when they see like 5 people at one corner, they will like shoot paintball bullets at them to just, so it's like 5 people here, 5 people there. In some places, some neighborhoods like Sattar Khan, a lot of people are actually kind of embracing this because this gets a lot of energy from the oppressors to like go like 1 mile when they hear like a chant from like 5-6 people, they have to just run to that place and like spend a lot of energy. A lot of people, like 50 of them on bikes, and then by the time they get there, there's no one there. And then on another side, on another corner, they hear another chant. And like in these backs and forths, sometimes they suddenly like see two of their own motorcycles on fire at a corner, and they don't even know like where it came from. And when people capture those bikes, and like, so that's, I think it is still a risky situation for the people, because they don't have, a lot of them don't have bikes, none of them have gears, and the other side, they're like very prepared for this. But still, I think they're spending more, the oppressors are anti protest forces are spending much more energy, I think.
Is it clear, I mean, regardless of the neighborhood, is it clear that there's something going on in Tehran? I mean, in other words, if you're not at a protest, like, you see military, you see police.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you do see military, you see police, you see riot police, like sort of pretty much wherever you go.
Yeah, pretty much every neighborhood. I mean, it depends. Like, there are neighborhoods that they start bringing less and less forces because nothing happens, nothing like extreme happens for a few days. But usually when people see that happening, they will start coming out again. But even like in the neighborhoods that there are not many people like chanting or running in the streets, and it's just cars honking, still it's very obvious, because they have their forces like sitting on every corner, and also the way the people are honking, it's like very obvious that it's unrest, it's not just normal honking. And also like there's so many people, so many women, girls just walking in the middle of the street without headscarves, which is very brave. I don't know where they get their bravery from, but this also happens a lot. And a lot of the times, like, when they're walking in the middle of the street without their hijabs, you can see the forces like in the sidewalk just sitting. And the fact that they're so brave to do that, it's
remarkable.
It's astonishing.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
So can you describe, I know you've been to some demonstrations, I mean, how would you describe the atmosphere or the feeling amongst those who are protesting? I mean, obviously there's anger, but what is the sense of things there?
I mean, it depends, and it keeps changing. So like the first few days, because people were able to gather, and like a lot of the places I was at, like at least 500 people, sometimes 1,000, 2,000 people were in the same place chanting. So that was one kind of feeling. Still, there is some fear, because they do keep like trying to attack the people. But because like there's at least like 1,000 more people there, you have some, getting to those people is very difficult usually, because on your way to get them there, you're usually alone or just a few people, and they do stop you and like search your backpacks, and sometimes like might just arrest you for no reason, because they kind of know that where you're going and why you're going there. But when you get there, when you get to the people, it's usually like a more heartwarming situation, and like you're all chanting together. But then when it turned into, right now, at least in Tehran, because they have so many forces, I haven't seen like more than 100 people gather in one location and chant. So it's usually like few people here, then they're running, then they go another place. So it's just feels like a street war kind of thing. And this is way more stressful, and
And is this to say, I say this with some, some lament, but is this to say that between the internet stoppages and the crackdown by police and military, that basically that has been effective in terms of getting the protesters off the streets and slowing the movement?
I'm not sure. I mean, right now, because it's like 2 weeks, maybe that is happening, but at first it wasn't so much the number of people were less, but the way they were allowed to, because when they have so many forces and they don't let you all gather in one spot. So maybe in one neighborhood, if the day before they started doing this, there was 1,000 people, 2,000 people in the same spot chanting, the next day it wasn't necessarily that it's less people. It's just the same 2,000 people just scattered throughout the neighborhood, running here and there. And I think at least at first it was a bit, people were a little bit frustrated of this, but I think right now, at least in some neighborhoods like Sattar Khan, this has become kind of a strategy because, again, it takes so much more energy and effort from them to scatter people around than for the people to just gather in some place, do two chants, like 20 people do two chants and run away. So in those places, you get, at least I get the sense that people are not necessarily mad that it's like this. They know it's like this. They're just trying their best to get as much energy from the oppressors as possible.
How are you guys organizing with the internet blockages? How are you spreading the word?
I think it's still through the internet, mostly Instagram and Twitter.
So you have access to Instagram, or does it come and go?
Well, right now they haven't completely blocked the internet like they did a few years back. I think in 2019 they completely shut off the internet. Right now there is access. For example, Wi-Fi's at home, they usually just work all day. It's just that most websites are filtered. So if you have a proxy, VPN or something, and I think they're using some techniques to limit the way the VPNs work, because before this, before all of this, I used VPNs and they connected very quickly. Right now, it just takes so much. Maybe it's because so many people from this location are using VPNs. Maybe that's what's causing it. I'm not sure. I'm not that technical, but if you are able to like make one of your hundreds of VPNs work, then you're good. Like with your Wi-Fi, with your LTE phone internet, they shut it off from 4 to 12, kind of completely. Only websites inside Iran, whose server are inside Iran, work from 4 to 12, 4 p.m. to like 12 a.m. But other than that time, with VPN, you can even use your like phone internet.
We're hearing, horrible reports of people being killed. We have a family friend of one of our people on our team who was killed in Shamal. We're hearing of protesters being beaten. Obviously, a lot of people being arrested. Some people breaking into, the thugs breaking into their homes and arresting them. Are you witnessing any of that? Have you seen that? Have you heard about that? Do you have friends who've been captured that way?
I mean, I don't think there's, at least in like middle class, upper middle class, I think across the society right now, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know anyone arrested. I know a lot of people who are arrested. Most of them were released the same night, but some were not. We know people who have been there for like, I think it's the 8th day now. We know someone who's been inside their jails for like 8 days now. And also, I don't think I know anyone who hasn't at least been beaten once with batons and with paintball bullets. So yeah, most people.
Did that happen to you?
Yeah.
Can you describe what happened?
I mean, we were kind of ambushed in a small alley, and like we all scattered. And then we thought, I think at some points their main goal is to just make people run and they don't come to arrest. But I think 3 of them thought that me and some other guy were at the end of a dead end, but we were not. It wasn't a dead end, it just looked like a dead end. So I think because they thought, oh, it's an easy arrest. So 3 of them kind of sneaked very close to us and then suddenly jumped out with their guns, and their guns even had lasers, and put it on us and said, drop to the ground. The guy next to me, who I have no idea who he was, he did drop to the ground, and I just started running. And they shot with a lot of, I'm not sure if it was paintball bullets or Sachme, I don't know what that is in English. The ones they kill birds with.
Yeah. Do you when something like that happens to you, does it intimidate you from? I mean, were you willing to go back on the street the next day, or does that really freak the fuck out of you? You know.
I mean, normally it does freak the fuck out of you, but I think it depends on the person. I think just anybody had to just think about what they want to do, and if that is a price they're willing to, even if that doesn't happen to you, still, like, there are people who are not able to come out, and a lot of people who just support with their cars. They come out with their cars, and even like most people I know, they don't just go by foot every day. They just alternate between different methods of protesting every day because it's safer, and you kind of think about what you want to do that day based on what you've heard on the social media. But yeah, I mean, for me, I did go out the next day too, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, you were just talking about the incredibly brave women who are walking down the middle of the street without a hijab on, without rusari in the middle of this, you know, crackdown, etc. But also, I mean, you are there's people who we've contacted in Iran who didn't want to come on this program. I mean, they wanted to come on the program, but they were afraid, and that's totally understandable. Our other guests have just used pseudonyms or different names. You, as you said, you've been boldly posting things online. You're using your real name. Tell me about that. Tell me about the decision. You must have looked in the mirror at some point and said, "This is what I'm going to do," and you're very courageous. Tell me about making that decision.
I mean, I think it depends on many factors, and still, if I think that the risk of it is like very high for them to come to my house and knock at my door, I would probably not do it. But it just depends. Right now, there's so many people who are using their pages, Instagram and everywhere.
Yeah.
And my logic is that if they want to come and arrest all of us, first, it's impossible. And second, if they want to do that, they should just go ahead and try to do that. I would welcome that if that's their goal, to just go to every house and arrest people who are posting online. But still, if I think that for whatever reason, there's a much higher chance that they're going to come to my house, I will take less risks, I guess.
Okay, but you don't have to be doing this. And you certainly don't have to be going out on the streets like you have been demonstrating. What makes this moment so important to you to be? I mean, it's one thing for us to go out and demonstrate on the streets of Toronto or LA or London in support of what you guys are doing in Iran, but it's another for you to actually be there facing those riot police. So what keeps you going?
It's, I think, mostly the hope of change. I'm not sure if it's called hope, because it's still not, at least personally, I know a lot of people have a lot of hope, but personally, because I've seen what they're capable of doing, I'm not that hopeful that they will allow this to keep going on. But I think people have come to the decision that change needs to happen. one way or another. And for that to happen, I think they want to just put all their effort, whatever that all means, but all the effort they can. We want to put all the effort we can. So that all the effort, that all depends on the person. Some people can do more, some people can do less. So, but I think all the energy they have, as long as they have, to get as much as possible. And I think that's, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's kind of the big strategy, to just shoot for the big change, shoot for changing the whole system, and at the same time knowing that it might not happen, changing the whole system, because of what they're capable of, all the weapons that they have and people don't. But at the same time accepting that even if that big change you're looking for doesn't happen, whatever else you can get is a win. So it's not like only changing the system is a win and anything less than that is a lose. No, everything, whatever you can take is a win, and you just spend as much energy and time as you can to shoot for the big change, changing the whole system. If it doesn't happen, whatever else you can take, you will just take as a win, and then I guess try another day for the big change if that doesn't happen.
I mean, that's an amazing attitude, man. It's certainly not a win if a lot of your brothers and sisters are being killed in the streets. That's that part's not a win, and that's pretty terrifying. But do you have any just again, in terms of, it's such a unique position that we're in, to be able to hear from someone who's in Tehran and who's willing to speak and who's been at the demonstrations, etc. I mean, can you paint a picture of, is there anybody or any moment that's particularly inspired you amongst the demonstrators? A woman I was just speaking to in Tehran was talking about the youth of some of the people she sees out there and how inspiring that was for her. Talk to me about what has inspired you.
I think like there are many moments and images, not seeing in social media, but like seeing up close, that like just the other day, like I think I said that, like you see, I guess like 19-year-old, 18-year-old girl without hijab and without like any coat, or just with a t-shirt in the middle of like Valias Street, which is like one of the biggest streets in Tehran, and like maybe just 20 meters away from the guards, and she's just waving her headscarf in the air, and like she doesn't even have any other cover that they're asking for. So even if they like start attacking her, she can't like pretend that she wasn't doing that, because she doesn't have any cover with her other than the headscarf that she's just waving in the air. I think like these moments are very, very inspiring. I don't see it in myself to be that brave, and I think it's amazing that so many women are that brave and are like trying to take back the basic rights that like everyone deserves. And also, I mean, also the moments that they rarely happen anymore in the past week, but in the first week, like you see 1,000 people, 2,000 people like around you, all chanting Zan Zendegi Azadi, which is woman, life, freedom.
Yes.
And especially like in some neighborhoods, like there was one of the demonstrations that it was at least like 1,000 people, and it was in one of the northern parts of Tehran, which is like upper middle class and more like well-off people. And I did not expect this to happen, because these are usually people we assumed would take less risks.
Right, more reserved.
Yeah, but no, I mean, seeing in that specific street, like Valias, very close to Tajrish, like 1,000 people chanting, and their guards tried to make it stop like 2-3 times, but because there was so many people, they couldn't, and they like fell back to Tajrish to regroup, and like that moment to see even in these kind of neighborhoods, people are just coming out and demanding what's their right. I think that's very inspiring.
And this thing where at 9 p.m. across Tehran, people get out in their windows and chant "Down with the dictator." Have you heard that or participated in that?
I have not, because most nights I'm not back by then, but I've heard that happens. I remember like back in 2009, there was also unrest in Iran back then, and back then that was one of the biggest things to do that every night. But this time around, I'm usually like back by 10-11, so usually I missed that part. Yeah.
Well, if you were there and you remember hash to hash in the 2009 the Green Movement protests and this, we're the whole tone of this time has been that this is a bigger deal. It's more serious. People are much angrier, and they're saying things and doing things that they wouldn't have done 13 years ago. Is that your assessment?
Yeah. I think it's very different, and I think it is bigger. I think to the government, to the regime's big mistake, this has led to here, because like back then people were just asking for free elections, which is inside the same system, and they kept refusing any kind of positive change, and right now people just want to change the whole system. And I think also each time that these unrests happen, the kinds of people who come out, the classes that are coming out, economic classes, social classes, are different. I think this time is probably the most, it has the most reach across ethnicity, class, like educated people, non-educated people, like everyone is out. And one thing that is very different is that it's you get this feeling that it's women are leading this. Every time unrest happened, women were there, but this time they're just leading the whole movement, and the whole thing started. What ignited it was Mahsa Amini and women's basic rights.
Do you know what you're going to do, say, tomorrow? Do you know? Do you have a plan, or do you, with each day, just sort of find out here where things are happening and decide where you're going to go?
Yeah, the latter. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we all kind of know that every day something we are gonna like not be home after like 5-6, but exactly what time and what is the thing that is gonna happen, that depends on the decision. I mean, the number of friends who are joining and what's on social media and what's like, that changes. Yeah.
Well, Sam, you've been very modest about your own bravery, but I thank you so much for boldly giving us your voice to send around the world. And
no problem at all.
You know, there are people freaked out about attending a protest in Toronto. You know, so for you to be doing this from Tehran, not to worry you, but it is it's very much appreciated. I hope you take care of yourself, and I hope we see you on the side.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this.
I hope we see you on the other side of this, man, and play some music together.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Sam in Tehran. The microphone's back on for Shaya and Pega. Three voices from Iran. Sara, Elham, Sam. Once again, thank you to the three of them for. I'm processing this. It was that was actually it's kind of difficult hearing all that because I feel like it's on the one hand, their courage is incredible, and these three people, I mean, the conviction they have about the change they want to, that they're willing to. I think each one of them basically said, "I'm willing to die to fight for freedom."
Yes.
That said, I mean, it's clear that at least from these three voices that the situation in Iran is pretty complicated. That it's not like hey, the revolution has come, everything's going to be over by tomorrow. You know, I mean, this is they all intimated that things have died down a little bit in terms of actually street action because of the crackdowns.
But what obvious is change is coming, you know, that's obvious. I mean, yes, revolution, maybe it's not in the next step.
Week.
Next week. But obviously the change has come, you know, like when girls, they don't wear hijab and they go in front of those thugs and
or go anywhere. The subway, all that.
So the change has come, and again, we have to keep ourselves hopeful.
I mean, all of that being said, what stuck with me, and I'm still, I think, processing, is the fact that that's the choice, that you either go out on the streets and fight and put your life at risk, or or what? I mean, you know, we heard from all three of these people saying, I'm willing to put my life on the line because it's reached a point where we just can't tolerate it anymore.
In terms of people who are on the front lines, you can tell it's somewhat generational too. I mean, we know this, that the young people are out there, and that young people usually are at the forefront of a revolution.
That's right.
But each one of them, in one way or another, was saying, you know, I haven't told my parents, or they don't really like what I'm doing. I don't say everything, or, you know, because obviously parents are going to worry, right?
Course,
I mean,
rightly so. I mean,
it's pretty terrifying. What they're experiencing and witnessing. Was it Elham who runs to the house and family takes her in, and I mean, Sam being as open as he is about
he was literally shot, you know, but he was lucky that it was paintball or such, mate.
And then he went back right away. I mean, you know, I mean, there are people who are afraid to like one of our programs on Instagram because the regime will come after them, you know, because we're not friendly to the regime. But this is the real stuff here. These guys, right? It's also, you know, in some ways I feel like I'm realizing as I listen to these guys in Iran that this is, you know, there's a duality to what's going on in Iran versus the feeling in the diaspora, you know. There's less implication, you know, I mean, direct in terms of threat, you know, to speaking out in the diaspora. So you see cross-generational and pretty universal, except for the people who are conspicuously silent, of course. But you know, you see that kind of mass, you know, we want change in all these in the diaspora countries where Iranians are. But the implications are different for us, right? We go and demonstrate, and then we go home to our. So in Iran, obviously, it's more complicated, you know, and especially when the crackdown comes, and you know, people are, you know, getting injured, arrested, killed. And what you were saying at the beginning of the show about the new wave of arrests, and I mean, it's. Well,
I mean, just to that point, I was going to say, I think it was Elham who was saying that, you know, one of the eye-opening points for her was that it could have been her, is what she was saying, I think. And, you know, for us here, no matter how much we support, that threat, like you said, is not there. And so obviously there's an understanding if things are slowing down in Iran, or you're seeing scattered protests, or you're seeing things like that. But here, we're only continuing to gain momentum and get stronger, and, you know, have a louder voice.
I was thinking about Sara talking about the youth of the people that they all talked about that too. You know, seeing teenagers, and I mean, it is really inspiring. Like they're forget, hanging out at the mall. This is like, I'm willing to risk my life for freedom, and it's such a funny thing because you zoom out and it's so crazy what this is about. Like they said it, even Elham, who's the activist, who's, the most, seasoned activist, it sounded like maybe of these three, is saying, I just want a normal life.
Yeah.
Like, they're not asking for, they're just like, I just want to be able to like wear what I want and listen to the music I want, maybe dance. Yeah. I mean, it's insane. It's insane what this is about. It's really, I mean,
It's funny that you say that, actually. As you're saying that, I'm realizing that I've stopped even thinking about what it's about. It's so much more about the fight. I keep, reposting and going to these demonstrations here and, really echoing people's voice in Iran, or at least trying to. But I don't think I had actually taken a second to think about the reality of what it is that, they really are fighting for. And you're right. It's so trivial and yet so important.
I mean, imagine living in a house where you become an adult and somebody says, you're not allowed to wear this is the clothing you have to wear, or you're not allowed to dance, or you can't listen to this music, you can't engage in. I mean, it's what we would grow up in the West as thinking of draconian. It is like it's that Margaret Atwood Handmaid's Tale kind of thing, And I mean, what are we talking about here? And hey, no matter what happens, I guess Sam just was saying at the end there, each time they push the envelope further, right? These brave young people in Iran, they're just pushing it, and there's no doubt that however this ends up, and that they've pushed the ball down the road quite a bit here.
For sure.
Okay, we talked at the beginning of the show about Shervin, the young musician who sang that song that has gone viral and then has been arrested for now. I mean, hopefully by tomorrow or the coming days, he'll hope he's okay. But we're going to play that song, right, going out. And we'll be back with another special edition on Monday. We can't really talk about anything else right now. This is all we're thinking about and wanting to talk about. And also, once again, a reminder that wherever you are listening to us from around the world, I think, Peggy, you said 120 different cities.
120 different
Likely
cities.
Wherever you are listening to us from. I know every major city in Canada for sure, and many of them in the United States. There are demonstrations planned this weekend. I know that's the case as well in the UK and pretty much everywhere. So here's a chance to show solidarity. We'll see you out there at the demonstrations, you guys. In the meantime, our website is rookmedia.com, where you can catch up on more recent episodes or back episodes or see our former guests or everything at rookmedia.com, all of our videos. And the last show we did on Monday, which was different voices from the diaspora, talking about how we can make a difference and support those in Iran. rookmedia.com. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together, Roham and Hita, Parisa, Pega, Merdad, and Shaya. Thank you to all of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Gomeshi. Mizun Bashin. Shervin, take it away.
برای توی کوچه رقصیدن، برای ترسیدن به وقت بوسیدن، برای خواهرم، خواهرت، خواهرامون، برای تغییر مغزها که پوسیدن، برای شرمندگی، برای بیپولی، برای حسرت یک زندگی معمولی، برای کودک زباله‌گرد و آرزوهاش، برای این اقتصاد دستوری، برای این هوای آلوده، برای ولیعصر و درختای فرسوده، برای پیروز و احتمال انقراضش، برای سگهای بیگناه ممنوعه، برای گریه های بیوقفه، برای تصویر تکرار این لحظه، برای چهره ای که میخنده، برای دانش آموزا، برای آینده، برای پس از شبای طولانی، برای قرصای حساب و بیخوابی، برای مرد میهن آبادی، برای دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود، برای زن زندگی آزادی، برای آزادی، برای آزادی.